what transforms an ordinary person into the embodiment of pure chaos. The Joker represents something far more terrifying than any conventional criminal. He's a mirror reflecting our darkest potential. This isn't just about a comic book villain. It's about understanding the psychology behind complete moral collapse. How does someone reach the point where watching the world burn becomes their greatest joy? The answer might disturb you more than you expect. Before the purple suit and maniacal laughter, there was just a man. The Joker's origin story, whether it's the failed comedian, the chemical plant worker, or the nameless criminal, always begins with someone ordinary, facing extraordinary pressure. This isn't accidental storytelling. It's psychological realism. The most compelling version shows us someone already on society's margins, financially desperate, emotionally isolated, professionally failed. These aren't random details. They're textbook preconditions for what psychologists call moral disengagement. When someone feels abandoned by the social contract, they become more susceptible to abandoning it entirely. Notice how every origin story emphasizes his invisibility before the transformation. He's just another face in the crowd, another person society overlooks. This anonymity becomes crucial. When you feel unseen by society, society's rules feel less binding. It's the psychological foundation of what Albert Bandura identified as the process, where normal moral constraints become deactivated. The pre-Joker isn't evil yet. He's desperate, frustrated, perhaps bitter, but still recognizably human. He still believes, on some level, that following the rules might save him. He's clinging to normalcy even as everything around him crumbles. This makes what comes next even more psychologically devastating. But there was something that no one could see coming, a mind perfectly positioned for complete psychological reconstruction. All it needed was the right catalyst to shatter every remaining moral boundary. One bad day. The Joker's most famous philosophy centers on this concept, and it's rooted in genuine psychological research. Traumatic events don't just cause pain. They can fundamentally rewire neural pathways, especially when they shatter our basic assumptions about how the world works. The chemical bath, the disfigurement, the realization that his family is gone. These aren't just plot devices. They represent what trauma specialists call world assumption violation. When our core beliefs about safety, meaning, and human goodness are obliterated simultaneously, the mind faces two choices: complete breakdown or complete reconstruction. But here's what makes the Joker psychologically fascinating. He chooses neither. Instead, he creates a third option: complete inversion. If life is meaningless, he'll celebrate meaninglessness. If society is cruel, he'll become cruelty personified. If existence is a joke, he'll become the punchline and make everyone else suffer the same revelation. This isn't madness in the clinical sense. It's a radical form of cognitive restructuring. The Joker takes his trauma and transforms it into a worldview, a philosophy, even a mission. Psychologists recognize this pattern in certain trauma responses: the complete abandonment of previous moral frameworks in favor of new ones that make sense of the senseless. The mirror becomes his moment of true birth, not because of physical disfigurement, but because he sees someone unrecognizable staring back. The person he was is truly gone, and in that void, something entirely new and terrifying begins to take shape. And it was there that everything began to unravel, not just for him, but for everyone who would cross his path. The Joker's insanity isn't random. It's methodically constructed. His crimes aren't impulsive outbursts, but carefully orchestrated performances designed to prove a specific point: that civilization is just a thin veneer over chaos, and anyone can be pushed to abandon their morals. Consider his psychological methodology. He doesn't just commit crimes. He creates elaborate scenarios that force others to make impossible choices. The fairy experiment in The Dark Knight isn't about destruction. It's about revelation. He wants to prove that given the right circumstances, ordinary people will abandon their humanity. This reflects what psychologists call projection, the unconscious transfer of one's own characteristics to others. The Joker can't accept that his transformation was unique, so he compulsively tries to recreate it in others. Every scheme is essentially therapy in reverse. Instead of healing trauma, he tries to create it. His relationship with Batman reveals another psychological layer. Batman represents everything the Joker once believed in: justice, order, the possibility of redemption. But instead of hatred, the Joker feels fascination, even affection. Batman validates his existence by being his perfect opposite. In psychological terms, Batman serves as the Joker's shadow self, the path not taken. The laughter is perhaps his most psychologically complex trait. It's not joy, it's a defense mechanism that's become permanent. Laughter historically serves to diffuse tension and process trauma, but the Joker's laughter has evolved beyond processing into proclamation. Every laugh says, "I've seen the cosmic joke, and now you will too." His unpredictability isn't chaos. It's calculated unpredictability designed to keep others off balance. He understands that humans need patterns to feel safe, so he systematically denies them that comfort. But the true monster was still dormant, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal the full extent of his psychological architecture. There comes a moment in every Joker story where he crosses a line that even hardened criminals won't cross. It's not about the act itself. It's about the complete absence of internal conflict when he commits it. This represents what psychologists call moral disengagement in its final form. The transformation is complete when he stops trying to justify his actions and starts celebrating them. Early in his evolution, he might rationalize his crimes as lessons or revelations. But eventually, he transcends even that. He doesn't need justification because he's created a moral framework where traditional ethics simply don't apply. This is where the Joker becomes truly terrifying, not because he's unpredictable, but because he's perfectly predictable within his own twisted logic. He's constructed a complete worldview where causing suffering is not only acceptable, but necessary. It's a form of radical philosophical consistency that's simultaneously logical and horrifying. The genius of the character lies in how he forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. If society failed him first, is his response entirely wrong? If life truly is random and meaningless, is his approach more honest than our comforting illusions? These aren't questions with comfortable answers. His crimes become increasingly elaborate, not because he's becoming more unhinged, but because he's becoming more sophisticated. Each scheme is designed to strip away another layer of civilizational pretense. He's not just committing crimes. He's conducting psychological experiments on the nature of human morality. The most disturbing aspect isn't his actions. It's how methodically he documents and analyzes the results. He's studying us as much as we're studying him. And he's reaching conclusions that challenge everything we believe about human nature. What if his methodology is sound? What if we're the ones living in denial about the true nature of existence? Modern neuroscience offers disturbing insights into how a mind like the Joker's might actually function. Studies of individuals with severe trauma show that prolonged stress can literally reshape brain structure, particularly in areas responsible for empathy, impulse control, and moral reasoning. The Joker exhibits characteristics consistent with what researchers call acquired sociopathy, the development of antisocial traits following severe trauma. Unlike psychopaths, who are born with reduced empathy, acquired sociopaths once possessed normal emotional responses. This makes them uniquely dangerous because they understand empathy intimately. They just choose to weaponize that understanding. His ability to manipulate others reveals sophisticated theory of mind, the psychological capacity to understand what others are thinking and feeling. The Joker hasn't lost this ability. He's refined it into a tool for psychological manipulation. He reads people with surgical precision, identifying their deepest fears and moral weak points. Research on moral injury, trauma that damages one's sense of right and wrong, shows patterns remarkably similar to the Joker's evolution. Subjects often report feeling as though they're viewing life from outside themselves, as if moral considerations no longer apply to their situation. The laughter could represent a permanent dissociative state, a psychological defense that's become a lifestyle. The most chilling aspect is how his logic actually holds together under examination. If existence is truly random, if suffering is inevitable, if civilization is just organized hypocrisy, then perhaps his approach is the more honest response. This isn't mental illness. It's an alternative moral framework that's internally consistent but externally destructive. Studies of cult leaders and extremist ideologues show similar patterns. The construction of complete worldviews that justify any action in service of a larger truth. The Joker has become the cult leader of his own philosophy of chaos. It wasn't madness driving his actions. It was calculated psychological engineering, designed to prove his philosophy by forcing others to live it. The Joker's true victory isn't in any single crime. It's in how he changes everyone around him. Batman becomes more brutal. Gotham becomes more paranoid. Society becomes more suspicious of its own stability. His chaos creates ripple effects that outlast any individual scheme. This reflects a genuine psychological phenomenon. Trauma is contagious. When someone systematically attacks the basic assumptions that hold society together, those attacks reverberate through entire communities. The Joker doesn't just create victims. He creates new versions of himself. People who've seen too much to maintain their faith in civilized order. His relationship with Batman reveals the ultimate psychological paradox. Batman needs the Joker to justify his own extreme methods, while the Joker needs Batman to validate his philosophy about the necessity of masks and the failure of conventional heroes. They're locked in a symbiotic relationship that neither can escape without losing their essential identity. The most disturbing legacy is philosophical. Once someone has encountered the Joker's worldview, really understood it, not just dismissed it, they can never fully return to innocent faith in human goodness. He plants seeds of doubt about the stability of our moral foundations that continue growing long after the encounter ends. Perhaps this is why he's never permanently defeated. He represents a persistent question about the nature of human morality that each generation must confront anew. Is our civilization really as stable as we believe? Are we all just one bad day away from abandoning everything we claim to value? The Joker embodies our deepest fear. Not that evil exists, but that good might be the real illusion. He forces us to confront the possibility that our moral systems are just elaborate games we play to avoid confronting the meaninglessness of existence. In the end, he doesn't need to win every battle. He just needs to keep asking the question, what if I'm right? And as long as that question exists, so does he. But perhaps he was never the only one capable of seeing the joke. Maybe he was just the first to stop pretending he didn't understand the punchline. The Joker represents our collective fear of moral collapse, the terrifying possibility that meaning itself might be the real delusion. He forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the stability of civilization and the nature of human goodness. In trying to understand him, we risk understanding ourselves too well. The joke isn't that he's insane, it's that his logic might be sound. Sweet dreams.